What's up, guys? Jason up, New Age Revolution, down here in the cave for another Mount Rushmore episode. Why am I doing so many of these? Well, because people like them. The last two Rushmores I did were about wrestling, and as far as view count goes, they've pretty much quadrupled what I usually do on the channel, and it's brought in about 108 subscribers in 28 days, which again is small when compared to bigger YouTube personalities, but huge when compared to this channel. So we're quickly approaching 3,000 subscribers, which is beautiful. So I'm gonna strike while the iron's hot, and I'm gonna continue to do Mount Rushmore episodes. So the last one we did was the Mount Rushmore of 80's WWF matches. Well, now we're going to do the Mount Rushmore, the top 4 WWF angles, WWF storylines, I suppose, that are not match related. So non-match WWF angles, the top 4, the Mount Rushmore to this guy, right? These are exclusive to us. Some of them might be strange to you, but when we talk about a Mount Rushmore, we talk about the moments that impacted us most in our lives. So let's start it off. The top 4, the Mount Rushmore of WWF moments, WWF storylines that are non-match related. Number 1, we're going to go with probably the biggest thing that I saw as a kid, the biggest angle I saw as a kid. And an angle that legitimately scared me and made me uncomfortable. And I remember being maybe 9 years old, because they would replay this. They would replay this for what felt like months. And now that I've just watched it, they actually did talk about it and show it for probably about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, on different shows, TNT, Championship Wrestling, and I remember as a kid, I remember looking away. I remember maybe turning the dial so that I didn't have to see it again because it was scary. Roddy Piper, Jimmy Snuka in Piper's Pit, where Piper smashes him in the head with a coconut, and Snuka goes flying through the set. Now, why that's surreal, and it's on this Rushmore list for many reasons. First of all, I don't know whose story you believe. Was the coconut gimmicked? Was it not? I don't know. I don't care. Jimmy Snuka got hit in the head with a pretty hard fruit, and that's an intense move. Bigger than that for me is he goes crashing through the Piper's Pit set. Now, as a kid, I couldn't conceptualize where the Piper's Pit was set up or how it was set up. But as Snuka crashes through it, it all kind of folds in on itself. And you see really that it's like plywood and maybe 3 panels of plywood set up in a little half circle there. And that was the Piper's Pit set. And it was basically, not even backstage of the arena. It was in a different part of the arena, off to the side. The fans can see it. It's just dark during the matches, and then they put the spotlight on it during Pit. But that was so interesting to me to see the set destroyed. And then the scary part for me was when Jimmy Snuka gets up and actually loses his mind and freaks out and chases after Piper, and Piper just sneaks behind the back door or whatever, and Snuka's banging on the door, and he's saying these things that he's just babbling nonsense, and wow, what an intense angle. Now and then, a kid watching it then, I know I was intimidated by that. I thought it was scary, and it stands out. And I just relived it. I mean, it happened in early to mid '84, And so I've watched it, and I watched that. I watched the feud. I watched Snuka get injured with the broken neck angle, and then back again to team up with Tonga Kid to fight Piper again. But whew, what an intense moment. The Roddy Piper smashing the coconut over Jimmy Snuka's head, and all of the stuff that ensued afterwards in that segment was heavy, intense. All right, another Mount Rushmore top 4 WWF non-match related angles. This angle came from a match. We've got and this angle came with zero build-up, none, zero build-up. We're watching a championship wrestling episode, and the championship wrestling episode is telling us, Vince McMahon and Bruno Sammartino are telling us that we have a feature match today. We have Andre the Giant and a partner of his choice taking on Big John Studd and Ken Patera. Well, of course, the partner of Andre's choice is SD Jones, so right there is kind of a buzzkill. And the match goes on as expected, whatever. However, what happens at the end of the match, or after the match, is my second Mount Rushmore WWF angle of the 80s. For whatever reason, Bobby Heenan and Ken Patera and Big John Studd cut Andre the Giant's hair. He has that big puffy afro kind of thing, and he's pretty much had that his whole career. But in this match, for whatever reason, I don't know what the big deal with hair was and why it was so insulting, but they decided to pretty much knock out the Giant and cut his hair. And again, the visuals of that with, Bobby Heenan throwing the hair around, hair all over Andre's back and chest and neck, and SD Jones trying to get in to help but continuing to be, held back. Is very intense and very memorable, but Vince McMahon's commentary, Vince McMahon describing the event, is an auditory memory for me. He is selling the heck out of that haircut as if it is a murder, and in fact, Vince McMahon calls it a rape. He calls it the raping of Andre's dignity. And that pushed back an 8-year-old, hearing that, and I wasn't even sure what that meant. But as I watched it later on, I said, wow, what an intense choice of words, Vince McMahon, that they were raping Andre of his dignity. What an intense moment. Love it. And of course, it leads to, the new look Andre. He never looked better with the short hair. And that's how he, went on the rest of his career. The next angle, we've talked about Hogan and Andre a bunch of times. We've talked about how their WrestleMania 3 match and their 1988 match are in my Mount Rushmore of WWF matches of the 80s. But so how does Hogan and Andre make the Mount Rushmore of non-match related angles? Well, of course, it's the build to the match. It's the heel turn of Andre the Giant. Something that an 8-year-old, well, I wasn't 8 at the time, I was 10, 1987. But ever since you start watching wrestling, Andre the Giant is a good guy. He's such a fan favorite, and nobody imagines that the big nasty giant is going to turn bad ever. Well, this angle started so smoothly. I just, obviously looking back as an adult, you saw the writing on the wall, but as a kid, you're just like, wait. This can't really happen, right? He wouldn't do this, right? So Andre at the time is gone from the WWF. I believe he was on suspension because he was caught wrestling as the Machine, right? So Andre was suspended for something. I haven't gotten to it yet. As I watch through my stuff, I'll remember. But Andre was suspended for something and came back under a mask as the Giant Machine. And the Machines, obviously it was Andre the Giant. But then Andre the Giant gets caught, and then Jack Tunney goes and suspends him indefinitely or whatever, right? So around 87, and I think this was obviously it had to be very early 87, maybe even very late 86. We start, so the angle unfolds on Piper's Pit. Jesse Ventura and a kind of starting to turn good guy Roddy Piper. Jesse Ventura is going to present an award to, Hulk Hogan or, whatever, or Andre the Giant. So I forget how they do it, but Hogan's getting an award, Andre's getting an award. Okay, 1 week Hogan gets the award, it's this big gigantic trophy or whatever. The next week Andre gets an award, it's a smaller trophy. And so that starts the build. Andre is feeling like he's not getting the cred that the Hulkster does. And then it just culminates from there. And it ends with, Andre is accompanied by Heenan during a Piper's Pit where he's going to square off with Hogan. We still don't know what's going on. Hogan is out of his mind. Why is he with you? Andre. And he kept calling him Andre. Why is Bobby Heenan out here with you? And, Bobby Heenan, basically, Andre's sick of it kind of deal. And you're such good friends. You never once offered him a world title match. Andre, why didn't you just ask? Oh, man. So good. And then Andre finally says, something like, I'm here to challenge you for the world title. And he grabs Hogan's shirt, kind of jerks him back and forth a little bit, rips off his chain, and in the process cuts Hogan. And we've got probably one of the best impromptu ad-libs, I guess there is, as Piper's Pit goes dark. Hogan is on the ground. He's clutching the chain. There's a drip of blood, and as Piper's kind of bending down, tending to him, and as the camera cuts out, you just hear Piper say, Hulk, you're bleeding. And how great is that? And then finally, Hogan accepts. He's angry. They have the press conference where Hogan is just growling and ready to attack, ready to jump across the table. And to me, it's the build-up to the biggest match of all time, Hogan and Andre. So huge angle, huge build, memorable. It's up there. It's on Mount Rushmore. The final one that, again, I said that I'd like to do, my fourth one I'd like to have maybe a little bit down the ladder. Oh, yeah, that was huge. The final angle on Mount Rushmore for me was around 1987 again, maybe late 86, because it's all building to WrestleMania 3. Obviously, Steamboat and Savage is everybody's favorite match. You recall it's not on my top 4, but to get to that angle, or to get to that match, had to be an angle. And the angle is twofold. First of all, it's Randy Savage crushing the larynx of Ricky Steamboat and pretty much killing him, right? And how was that done? Well, Steamboat was draped over the railing, the guardrail, and Randy Savage came off the top rope with the double axe handle onto the back of Steamboat's neck, pushing his neck down onto the guardrail, and then Steamboat does this, magical Hollywood sell of, oh my God, my larynx is crushed. And he can't breathe, and he's coughing, and he's squirming, and I think they even did a fall off the stretcher bit with him because he just couldn't breathe. Oh, and intense. And in 1987, the crowd is right there crying along with you because they feel the seriousness of this too. They are extremely concerned about the crushed larynx of Ricky Steamboat. Now, there's a part 2 to this angle because Bruno Sammartino is so upset that he goes back in the dressing room, to try to check on Ricky Steamboat, who is under medical care. And as he's doing so, Randy Savage comes in, sweaty and just had the match. Where's, he's all, and Bruno says, what do you do? What are you doing? Why did you do that? And Randy Savage says something, who cares kind of deal. And Bruno says, you scum! And he starts choking Randy Savage. I love it. And it led to a little Bruno Randy Savage program, which was great. But so that angle for me, twofold, sticks out. The crushed larynx and Bruno Sammartino losing his mind in the back. And I think he called him a slime. You slime! And as he's choking him. It's beautiful. All right. So that is the Mount Rushmore of WWF angles from the 80s, non-match related. And hope you enjoyed. Put yours down below, as they say. And we'll definitely be back with a whole host more. I have many, many ideas jotted down on paper. So we'll see you again next time. Good night now.